Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Adam Benayoun at 50/50 Martial Arts. Adam is a brown belt Pan American and European champion, has great all-around jiu-jitsu, and we're going to talk about the Estima Lock today. The Estima Lock is a really powerful submission. We're going to go through a few different setups, but the main thing we're going to focus on is the foundational mechanics of doing the submission.
All right guys, we're just going to go over the Estima Lock. I wanted to show you guys a couple of different ways to apply tension in the position to hopefully make it feel really tight and hopefully make it something that's recreatable. The issue for me a lot of the time is getting myself to spots where I feel like I can put the right torque on the position without things being overly specific. So let's say I grab John's foot. The first thing that I'm trying to accomplish when I'm going for really any foot lock is I'm trying to eliminate slack. Like right now, John has all this mobility in his foot. He can move it in different directions. So I don't want to just start wrenching on it. What I want to do initially is just create this bend in his foot. Just like if I were walking down the street and I kind of stumbled and I started to, this is typically how most people will sprain their ankle. So the first thing that I think about doing is just kind of rotating my partner's foot inward just to eliminate some of the play. So like if John moves his foot around now, there's like way less play as opposed to this, right? So that's the first step, just finding different ways to create this. Okay, for the Estima Lock, what I'm trying to use is like my stomach to maintain this piece, okay? That's what it's about. It's just maintaining this tension, okay? And I would be doing the same thing if I were going for a heel hook, just because I find that this is a great way to eliminate slack. As far as applying the submission, what I'm trying to think about doing is maintaining this tension and making John's toes rotate around this corner while stapling his knee in place, okay? So what I like to think about doing is creating that. I'm going to create as much of a bend in my partner's knee as I can. That tends to help things out. And then to finish, I'm just going to go outside arm in. You can make like a rear naked choke grip. And what I want you guys to think about doing is rotating your body around in a way that's actually going to make his toes come through this space. If I just hip up here, I'm sure it'll be uncomfortable and it may hurt John, but I find that it's difficult to recreate, especially when you consider that your partner's foot is going to be moving around, he's going to be pushing, he's going to be doing whatever he can to escape. So what I think about doing is locking this grip up, eliminating slack, and then I'm going to rotate John's foot through that space. So really simple. I'm here. Just going to create a bend in my partner's foot. I'm going to line it up with my stomach, rear naked choke grip, and then I'm going to think about drawing his toes underneath his leg, and I'm basically trying to make his foot go in a circle. And I'll get a really, really clean finish. So a way that I really like to set this up is just off the threat of the leg drag. You can do it from the guard, you could do it off the pass. I tend to prioritize passing more now when I'm on top, so I'm really liking the Estima Lock from my guard. But let's just say we get to like leg drag position, maybe you set it up from double pull, maybe you set it up from a sweep, and a really common scenario that your partner is going to have to deal with is whether or not he wants to let you come up and leg drag, or if he wants to try to draw his knee to his chest and defend the position. Right? So all we're going to be preying on is the response where our partner is drawing their knee to their chest, right? So if I feel John draw his knee in, I'm going to create a little bit of play, right? So I'll like drift myself back just to help guide John's foot across. And this is where my Estima Lock is going to start to come into play. So you can see how I'm already creating that bend in his foot. I'm really just using my chest to do it. The more that you guys practice this, the more you'll find different ways to create that kind of bend. Like if I just do this, like it doesn't really feel like anything, right? I'll try to use my chest to guide his foot into that position. And now I'm just going outside over, and then you can just start to rotate and finish. If you wanted to put like more heat on it, you could start to go belly down. One thing that I'll try to do just to help stabilize the position is I'll see if I can put myself into 50-50 as it's happening. So if I go leg drag and I feel John pull his knee back, I'll see if I could just step my foot out and try to go 50-50. And then like it's already tight, right? Yep. And then you can just think about rotating. But really like if I kept things straight, like I don't need to lock a rear naked choke grip. I just need to start to draw his toes around that circle and get a really clean finish. So one thing that I've learned just working with Ryan a fair bit about footlocks is it's not so much about the grip, because there's plenty of different ways that you can connect your hands to finish. And I think that, when we're first learning these things, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Like, which grip do I use at any given moment? Do I use this one? Do I use that one? And I find that it's more about figuring out where there's play, eliminating it, and then just applying tension in a rotational kind of way. So another way that you guys can set it up is just from inside De La Riva. So just a couple of little pointers about this position. I tend to try to stay relatively low because people are so good at navigating through this inside space. Yeah, so another thing to consider is that as I come forward, this is actually going to give John what he needs to get through. So if I start coming forward, John can start to spin, get through the space, then he's going to start attacking my back, right? So what I'll think about doing is just settling my base, and I'll check my partner's shoulder. You can use your left hand on the bicep, you can use it on their shoulder, and it'll just make it difficult for him to cut through. And a lot of the time what you're going to encounter is people wanting to put this kind of shallow lasso in, exactly, right? So when the shallow lasso starts to happen, I'm just going to rotate inward just to help guide my partner's foot across. And this is like, I guess like a similar, like it's going to feel the same, but it's going to be a different grip. And going back to what I was saying before, it's, again, not about the grip you're using, it's about the tension that your partner's feeling. So for this one, I'm just gonna use my hand to create that bend in John's foot. I'm just gonna line it up with my stomach, right? And then from here, it's already tight, you know? And I can rotate inwards to finish it. If you wanted to go rear naked choke grip, you definitely could. I would just say that you'll feel it out in the moment, see how much time you have. Most of the time when I hit this one for real, I'll cup and I'll just kind of go for it hard. Like I'll start drawing John's toes underneath, like, or right over top of my top leg, and I'll maintain that tension. And a lot of the time you can finish it with one hand. If you want it to be really gnarly about it, you could drop your chest, lock the rear naked choke grip, and then spin. But again, there's time that takes. You know, maybe that 1 second is what it takes for John to get out. So I would say it's kind of going to be a value judgment in the moment.
I would also say, like, when you're passing, the Estima Lock is one of the better leg locks for when you're on top. Like the straight ankle lock, which I'm going to do in a future video, is really good setup from guard. But the Estima Lock is really effective when you're on top. And I think adding that element into your passing game is very powerful, right? Because if I'm playing guard, I'm usually just worried about the guard pass. But as soon as even if the guy doesn't finish the Estima Lock, if he has a legitimate threat on it, it makes me get so nervous and anxious that it makes it easier to pass my guard because I won't use my legs as freely and feel as comfortable just playing open guard.
So guys, I want to give one more setup for the Estima Lock. This one I like to do from one leg X, and just piggybacking on what John was just saying, I'm really digging submissions that I can look for from the top that don't compromise my positioning or compromise my base. I think when I was a little bit less experienced, I just loved the idea that I would tap everybody from everywhere. But as your opponents get more and more skilled, the odds that is going to happen become a little bit lower. So if I can stay on top, pass the guard, but also, you know, present real submission threat without giving up my base, I think that's a little bit more suited towards what I'm trying to get going. So I want to show you guys a way that I like to set this up from one leg X. So a lot of the time the issue that we're going to encounter is this inside leg being stuck. So what I'll start to do is just stand up. When I stand, I'm really thinking about staying rooted to the ground. Something that you can think about doing is just keeping your hand forward and keeping points on the ground. If I start to stand up tall, I know John's going to start to attack. Maybe it's like tripod sweeps, maybe it's sickle sweeps, maybe it's him starting to get to my second leg. So when I stand up, I try to stay as rooted as I can, and I try to think about my alignment. I don't want to contort my body. I don't want my lower body to be facing one way and my upper body to be facing the other. All right, so I'm staying nice and tight. I'm going to guide John's foot off of my hip. Try to make sure that you're really grabbing at the end of the toes, right? And then from here, I'm going to work to attack this leg drag, right? So it's going to be very similar setup, right? I work to attack the leg drag. John wants to pull his foot back, and I'm going to feed this into the Estima Lock. So same thing that I was doing before. I'm really using my chest to create that bend in the foot. And then to finish, I can't reiterate this enough, I'm not just hipping up. I'm trying to draw John's toes in a perfect circle and around this bend. And you get the finish. I don't need to fall down. I don't need to make any big movement. I don't need to grip my face or anything. Just a little movement, and you're gonna get a lot of pressure. So I'll go for my leg drag, I catch the foot, and then I draw John's toes around in a circle, and I get my finish. And if he decides, hey, I don't want this to happen, he extends his legs through, cool, no problem. I'll go back to the leg drag and try to work on my passing. All right?
All right, guys, so it's good to have the finishing mechanics on that. There's a lot of different ways you could set it up, but that's like a foundational move that I think you can fit into your game in a lot of places. We're gonna do another similar video on heel hooks as well. That'll be good. And then also I'm gonna add a video in showing some of my favorite ways to set up the ankle lock from the bottom, which I think is a really foundational mechanic in modern jiu-jitsu that's important to have. Thanks, guys.